What happens when two successful entrepreneurs get together for a drink? They talk shop, of course. So grab your favorite cocktail and sit alongside Scott DeLong and Vince Moiso, two seasoned business leaders that have driven their own companies to success, as they share from their experience and dive deep into the secret sauce that can turn a company around. The CEO Podcast starts now.
Hey everybody, Vince Moiso here with the CEO Podcast, and I'm here as always with my partner Scott DeLong, and we've got a special guest today. This is a good friend of mine, Peter Platt, who's ex-Californian now, who's been out in Tennessee for the past couple of years, and so he's joining us all the way from Nashville today on our podcast. And Pete, appreciate you being here.
Absolutely.
Today we're going to talk about what I think is just a super smoking hot topic, and that's around talent acquisition. I think so many businesses right now, a lot of business owners that I work with and talk to are really struggling around hiring talent. One, the market, there isn't a ton of talent out. There's not a big talent pool right now that we're pulling from. And a lot of companies are trying to keep up with demand and hiring for various positions. So a lot of struggles, challenges, and things that are happening out in the marketplace. So Pete, tell us, do me a favor and just start with, give us a little bit about your background, and then if you can give us a little bit of what's going on in the market right now, so we've got some context.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks, guys, for having me here.
Yeah.
So again, my name is Peter Platt. I've got Platt Partners. Been doing executive search and recruiting for the past 25 years. I've seen and been part of the ups and downs associated with employment and recruiting and talent acquisition, and really seen its growth, over the years, certainly with it. And right now is one of those times. It's those things we'll be talking about, 5 years from now. Like, I cannot believe what just happened, and so you're seeing kind of what happened in 2000 during the dot-com boom, when we talked about it before, with an incredible market, individual kids coming out of college getting BMWs as a sign-on bonus, and we're seeing that again right now. Maybe it's Teslas. I don't know if it's BMWs, but at this point,
certainly signing bonuses,
but yes,
at least,
yeah.
right?
So there's a lot of heartache going on right now, and certainly, how I work, I really represent, a lot of the employers and the associated hiring managers there, and that's how I'm working with. So we have to get real creative now, because there's way more many jobs than there are people for those jobs out there.
So talk a little bit about market value, right? So I think what I'm experiencing personally, and what I'm hearing from other business owners, that's such the struggle, is you've got, you could do a little bit of research on market value for a particular position, right? Of what the market's paying for that position. Yeah. And it's way overvalued right now.
It's all out the door.
It's just like, okay, great. Forget about even looking at market value. So what's the barometer at this point? Like, how do you even approach it?
Well, a lot of these clients that I've worked with, they'll have their HR, and they've got their compensation specialist that's in there, and they're using different programs like Towers Parent that'll give them kind of a slate, or a platform for a certain position, and they'll level it and have a comp with that. So we're still using that, certainly. But again, I'm out on the front lines talking to the candidates, and you're seeing on average 15 to 20%, in terms of a candidate, in order to make a move, that's the increase is going to have to be in their base pay.
15 to 20% increase from their current comp or market comp?
With their current comp now.
Got
so that's on average. But I've experienced it, with some of our clients. It's not only base salary increase where you're seeing the 15 to 20% increase there. You're seeing, they're demanding sign-on bonuses now, and I work with a lot of upper management, senior level positions, and you're seeing $100,000 sign-on bonus requests.
Wow.
Come in.
So I'm concerned for the company. So I'm a company, I need to hire 5 or 10 mid-level to executive management folks, right?
Right.
But I got 150 others at that same level right now. and I'm paying $100,000 sign-on bonus for this guy and 20% more than what happens to the rest of the company?
The requests are out there. It's not necessarily my clients actually gave them $100,000 sign-on, but it's still a legitimate question that you have there, because there's going to be leveling issues that are going to be going on right now. So it's how bad do you need the talent right now, for those individuals coming in for the work that you have, because you have a lot of companies right now that have been sitting on a lot of money. They're going to market with their particular products, and they need that talent in order to do that. So right now they're just biting the bullet. They're paying, the 15 to 20% increase in pay. They are doing the sign-on bonuses right now, but you're going to see probably in the next year or two, I think it's going to happen that soon, where they're going to hire everybody that they've needed to hire. And they're going to be off. You're going to have individuals in the group, and they're going to find out,
who's good, who's not.
Word's going to get out, and so they're going to stick with those players. But also, you're going to have the internal employees. You're going to be like, look, they're going to get their.
Why aren't they looking for a job?
Well,
they're going to get.
They're going to have their annual review, and they're going to be like, well, I'm ready now. I want my 15 to 20% increase, and so that's going to rear its ugly head, soon, and so. You're going to have some clients like I have. They're probably going to be, $3 million or plus in payroll that they've just increased, just with that 15 to 20% increase that I keep referencing for that. You'll get real specialized positions for some of these other clients that we're working with, especially in tech and software. You're seeing upwards of 30 to 35% increase, in base pay.
Wow.
In order to make that move, and they're
so are
paying
your
it.
clients now looking to fill jobs that they need, or doing a land grab with people to make sure someone else doesn't get them? What do you see?
It's positions they need, because this all kind of started. We're in a great market right now. I mean, the stock market's doing what it's doing. These companies have been sitting on a lot of cash, and you have a number of venture capital that are giving Series B and Series C funding out there. There's a number of transactions going on with
rampage.
that. And look, what we were talking about is that you've got individuals from the Fortune 1000. They're like, okay, I'm ready. My savings is up. I can go make that jump and take the risk with a startup, and go do that. And they're doing it, which leaves a void with these Fortune 1000 companies now. And so they're having to backfill with that. There's just a lot of movement right now in a lot of different directions. And
so in this backfill, are they finding talented people to backfill, or are they getting people that aren't quite ready yet?
Well, I think companies, especially the past 10 years, they've done a good job, especially the publicly traded companies, Fortune 1000. They have succession planning plans in place in there. So they're looking at their internal talent right now, and they're looking at, what do they want to do, number one, and then what skill set do they have, and can they match that up, with the
So
past.
stop there for just a minute, because this is off topic, but I want to make a point of it. So the Fortune 1000 companies are backfilling and getting people prepared through employee development for succession plans.
Yeah.
The problem with the $5 to $20 million companies, they're not.
Right. They don't have that.
So listen, so folks in that range, listen to what they're doing. They're developing their people so that they have room to grow.
Correct. Yeah. And then they can survive these times. Yeah. Going through these times.
Well, you have to be prepared. So if I'm hearing anything, employee retention is as critical as even talking about talent acquisition. So it's like I'm listening to that and I'm thinking to myself, okay, wow, the performance reviews that I'm going to have in the next month, I need to be thinking about, wow, what do I need to do now in terms of merit increase such that I'm focused on employee retention?
Well, we're talking about money right now, and in the end, true, money is important, but it's not everything. So what you have is you have a number of opportunities now that individuals, as they think about their careers, that they can choose from, because they've been wanting to do this with their career, or they've been wanting to do this particular job, and now they have the opportunity to do it and not take a big hit, in terms, if at all, in terms of compensation, and follow that route, which gets to your point you guys are talking about. What are these companies doing internally to address it with their internal talent?
Yeah.
What is that path that you want to do, and what have I done to the best that they can, develop those paths for those individuals and do that? Because the money thing isn't isn't everything, but to sit down with them and say, what is it like? If they were just to ask, what do you want to do? What is it you're looking to do?
Yeah.
And you can just say, I don't even care if it has anything to do with our business or what we're trying to do. If you want to go start a car wash business, I don't want to go what, but I just want to know what your hopes and dreams are. And then what do we have here internally that can match it up? Is that something we can do?
Well, it's developing them to be an executive. So
Right.
we were just talking about that earlier, is where I've got an employee that Scott's coaching, and this person has the desire to get to the next level and get to the executive level, and so we've got to carve a path, and we've got to plan, and we've got to nurture that, right? And I think that's the type of planning in the smaller companies that has to happen. If you're going to take a lesson from the Fortune 1000s, that level of planning is as big, because that's what I'm hearing you say, that's as critical for employee retention as the money.
Yeah.
Right. So it doesn't have to be about that 15 to 20 or 30% raise. It's what path are you putting them on to develop? And in fact, our two previous podcast topics. One was what it meant to even be an executive, and what it means to be an executive leadership. And we talk a lot about the development, right, that needs to happen to get a person there. And we talked even about management. I mean, forget about the executive level for a second, but talking about shifting that high performer that a lot of businesses just go, okay, I'm going to make you a manager, and they throw them into that position.
So let's get back. We got an expert on talent acquisition here,
Yeah.
and it all ties together, and I get that, and my concerns on maintaining the business and growing the business and all that. But let's get into this talent acquisition piece. What are some of the things that organizations can do to position themselves to attract this talent that you're talking about, other than throwing wads of cash at them?
Yeah, well, I think if we even back up just a little bit more, is a hiring manager sitting down. I understand the market now. I've done the research out there. I know that there's way more many jobs out there than there are people for these roles.
Sure.
So I need to get strategic about this. And so whereas in a softer market, let's say, I can have my checklist of all the things that I need to have in a position, or a person's background that I'm recruiting for, whether, the titles that you're looking at, years of experience, the education they're coming from, the industry that they're part of.
Not just the education, but what school they came from.
Yeah.
Which used to be a big thing.
Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. So I can no longer, I have to get, not no longer, but I have to get strategic in terms of what are some other varied skill sets that parallel what we have going here with this particular role that I can take a look at, and that would transition well for that.
Even from outside the industry.
Yeah, even if let's take a look at, so as a recruiter, and I'm sitting down with the hiring manager, they're giving me the job description, and then I have to say, okay, let's take this back. We know what the market is right now. This is going to take you a very long time. It's going to cost you a lot of money to check all the boxes here, for this particular individual. So let's take a look at some other industries. Let's take a look at some other skill sets that may parallel this, that we can take a look at to broaden our audience and give us a better chance to interview 3 to 5 candidates for this particular, position.
So you
that
can even
have.
go outside functional position and find someone that has a skill set that works, let's say, in a different division, in some other functional area.
Yeah, if you look at product management, for instance, there's a lot of crossover with program management. So you got program management. There's a clear difference between the two, but there are probably 40 to
skill sets,
40 to 60% where you're going to have some crossover with that particular skill set. And then if they have the soft skills, in addition to that, is this someone I want to work with every day? Is going to fit in with the team.
Yeah.
Then let's take a look at that, and do that. And so I'm saving my client, the hiring manager, a lot of heartache. I'm saving them time. I'm saving them money as best I can in this particular market as we go through it. That's my focus right now.
Can I ask a little bit about soft skills versus hard skills?
Yeah.
So I think, the way I look at the world, and I'm not working in Fortune 1000 companies, I'm working more in the smaller industries.
Yeah.
But the way I look at it, that the soft skills are more important than the hard skills, because I can train the hard skills.
Yeah. And that's absolutely.
And is that the bigger companies are looking at it as well? Or
absolutely. That's absolutely true. So, but for me, if I'm talking about my business and, selfishly speaking, I'm thinking about if an employer is coming to me and they're going to pay a fee for my services, they're looking for that purple squirrel. They're looking for that unique individual that you just cannot find. And then it's up to me to consult with all my years of experience with them, give them a lay of the land with that. And that's what they're paying me to do, with that. But you're right.
Lay of the land, meaning you'll give them, so this guy, this person qualifies all of these things, and you will have to train here, here, and here. I mean, you give them that kind of advice. Is that what you're talking about? Or
not necessarily. I'm more, on the front in terms of the recruiting and the candidate identification piece of it. So what I'm doing in terms of, say, look, you've got a senior product marketing manager, well, let's say within the food industry, right? And you're looking to do different variations of your menu, let's say. I can go out within a fairly short amount of time, go out and figure out those titles, those markets, those particular companies, and so forth. Generally speaking, how many of those folks are out there in the market? Okay. And then from there, we can reverse engineer it in terms of how many folks we can work to, depending if they're going to relocate somebody or not. Is it remote? And that's a whole nother topic that we could get into.
I don't know. Now. I don't know if we have the time, but we should squeeze a little bit of that in.
Yeah.
My question with that, along the lines of that, is there a little bit of an air of desperation in hiring right now? In other words, are they saying, "Great, give me a warm body, we'll figure it out"?
No, we're at least with my client base and in terms of how the clients, and I'm working with my clients, no, we're not doing that. So we've got some searches that normally we could do it within 90 days, but it's taken us 6 to 8 months to fill the position. But it's a highly specialized role that we have, and they're going to take their time. They want to find the right person.
So it's not just the warm body, but you are having them expand their view on what what the ideal candidate looks like, and expand that a little bit.
Yeah, so right now so we've got a mix of kind of mid-professional type roles that are 150 to 180K, and then you've got roles that are $300,000 to $500,000 that we're working on. So the roles that are much higher, they're just add another 4 to 5 months on the search, for it. But those mid-professional type roles, yes, you do start to get creative on, like I said, we've talked about it in terms of the backgrounds of individuals and years of experience and all that kind of thing. And it's been a bit of a shock to hiring managers, where I have one particular client, and I haven't seen this in a long time, but I'm seeing kids from top tier 1 schools for engineering roles, especially in sales engineering, which is key. 3 years of experience, and they're asking 160 to 170 on base salary.
Wow.
So 3 years of experience.
So you're talking about a 28-year-old person.
I'm talking about 26.
Oh my gosh.
27-year-olds out there right now.
Wow.
These are
really smart generation.
really smart individuals, fully capable, that sort of thing. But it just gives you that's an extreme case. Yeah, I'm giving you guys right now.
Yeah.
For that, but that's what's going on right now, and you're seeing it out there.
Can you put? Okay, so I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but I do want to address the quick question around remote, versus in office. I mean, can we just spend a few minutes and just at least on the surface, because I feel like, well, one, we've had a podcast about that, and we know full well that can be its own topic.
Yeah.
But how is that? So let's just talk about it in respect to talent acquisition and the market that is today, and are employers having to broaden, let's say, their thought on remote versus in office, especially if you find, so like my specific question would be, I heard you like these companies want to find the right individual for that position. And if that right individual is remote, are they willing to do that?
100%. Yeah. I'll take that back. 90%. There's still some clients of mine that they just will not budge. They want everybody on site. And they're moving towards that. But, like here in California, you can't have them on site right now, but they're already have plans in place for Q1 and Q2, next year for everyone to come back on. But 90% majority are working towards 100% remote to a hybrid model. But I think the hybrid model is going to be the model going forward. That was already happening before COVID hit, but this just accelerated that whole model.
Yeah.
And that's what you're going to see. And it's going to be interesting to see how it kind of trickles out to the rest of the market, because there was that whole WeWork in that whole thing kind of imploded.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, you're like, oh, that's brilliant, because we have clients now that are investing, and I'm trying to think of some of the other brands that are out there now that compete with WeWork. But there's a lot of that flex office schedule, because there's people that do want to go and they want to work and be with other people.
Yeah.
But they just want to do it 2 days a week. You know, they want to do it 3, and they want to do it on their own time. And but I also think that there's going to be a productivity segment to this, or however you want to say that. But eventually you're going to have to do the job. You're going to have to get that product and service to market. And if hiring managers or employers, you know, the C-suite, if there's any issues or delays or, you know, things around that, that's going to quickly change. They're going to be like, everyone back.
Right.
Everyone get back. I don't care. It's costing us, you know, too much money. We've got way too much flex. So I'm interested to see the productivity measurement as we go through this process.
Well,
and
there's
look
a whole
at this.
planning piece around that, right? So I've got some clients that are giving up real estate space to go to this hybrid model or fully remote model.
Yeah.
They're just not going to be able to say, let's come back.
No.
Immediately. So the measurements and then the productivity and all of that becomes more important. But I think what's even more important, and I'm going to ask you because you're the expert on this, but I would assume that the soft skills become even of greater importance in this hybrid
How
model.
are you? How do you organize yourself? How do you motivate yourself? You know, all of those different things. You know, what kind of? Because some people work better in an environment where they are micromanaged. You know, as we talk about micromanagement, and there's been a big shift towards that. You know, in terms of moving away from that. But some people need to have them. It depends on the position, the skill set. Some of those you need to be. You've got to have the numbers. So if you look at a sales development rep, inside sales rep, that's a heavily metric driven position,
right?
And you've got to be on it like within an hour, and then at the end of the day, and then every couple of days, and then every week. And how are you going to be able to measure that completely remote, you know, and to have that? So but to answer your
measure
question,
it and manage it.
Yeah.
Right. Because that requires, when you say micromanagement, I think productive management.
Not
is
just a
little
negative
different,
connotation
right?
with that.
It does.
Yeah.
But it does require more management, which requires better leadership skills in order to retain the employees that you are micromanaging or productively managing.
From top down, you know, it's the visibility. We've talked about these topics before. It's that visibility. The level of visibility needed throughout an organization is much, much greater in a hybrid model. Transparency that gets required, much more important than it ever was. Empowerment of your employees. And then basically, I was thinking of the soft skill communication. I mean, really like the number one thing that I'm looking for from somebody is their ability to communicate appropriately internally. Do they have the etiquette? Do they have the background? Do they understand? Because otherwise, you're going to get lost in my organization if you can't. You're going to get completely lost if you don't have that one soft skill.
Yeah, and that'll be interesting working remote. You know, 100%.
Right.
You know, because individuals, everyone's different.
Well, especially the levels that you're hiring, executives and the next tier level, right? They have some functional responsibility, but they also have responsibility for people.
Yeah.
Majority of the responsibility is for people. So those skills become more and more and more important.
Yeah.
You need to understand the language of the engineer, but you need to have to deal with engineers is even more important.
Yeah.
Well, I think what's happening, you know, you talked about, you know, I think the exit from, you know, what I'd call executive level, where, you know, maybe in the Fortune 1000 arena, I heard you say earlier, you know, there's folks that are leaving for startups because they're in the position to do that, and then they're having to backfill those type of positions. I know people that are, let's say, in middle, you know, management or executive level VP type roles that are leaving because the company said, hey, we're not going to allow you to be remote anymore. We want you back. And now they got a taste of being remote. And then they put themselves out in the marketplace to someone like yourself that's recruiting for another company that's open to being remote. So now all of a sudden, I feel like the competitive landscape among businesses now all of a sudden, the opportunity to be remote versus not is a part of the package.
Yeah, it definitely is. That's so getting back to the blocking and tackling of day-to-day of what I do. When you're talking to candidates on a daily basis for a particular role, the very first question you're getting, and it's not even, I don't even get to a conversation. It's in either an email or a text. Before I get on the phone with you, is this position remote? And so
that is interesting.
That is, if it is not, then moving on. I'm
Are you seeing generational differences in that though? Younger people want more remote versus older? Not at all.
That's across the board.
Okay.
Wow.
Everyone wants it.
Wow.
Okay. So everyone, that's the first question I get. It's not even a comp question. It's, is this position remote?
Wow.
And then if it is, or, and then, okay, it's remote, but, what is the percentage on site versus off site?
Right.
And then that, again, if it's not 50% or more off site or remote, then I don't want to talk to you. So, that's the number one question right now, for it. So, all of this stuff I think is going to be super interesting because I think there's so many topics that we could be talking about right now. There's the comp issue that's out there. There's the remote issue right there. There's the leadership aspect of it, with it. But being on the front lines,
dealing with the existing employees,
yes,
and their needs.
Like I said, that's going to be a whole thing in a couple of years too.
I don't think it's going to take a couple of years.
You're right.
I mean, if I'm working for a company, the first time I see a new BMW out there, a new Tesla, a new whatever, with a shiny new license plate, and this brand new person over here that doesn't know crap about my company, I'm
asking questions.
I'm asking questions.
Yeah. Well, I think it'll be interesting to see again in the next 3 to 5 years how all of this plays out, how well people really do well working remote, what positions do well working remote. Because before COVID hit and everyone got sent home, with that, there was already, especially in the tech industry, software industry, you had companies that, I had a client I worked with that, this is back in 2019, that didn't have 1 square inch of leased office space, and they had 600 employees worldwide. Wow. So it was already, heading that direction for certain industries, But then you have some real concrete or staple companies and industries that have always had the brick and mortar, corporate office, that sort of thing.
And they're holding on to that.
Yeah, and I think they're loosening the grips now, but culturally, how is that going to play out? For them, because they're so used to, table meetings, tabling things, and let's go in here 15 minutes, and have that meeting, and it gets back to the productivity thing, and that's going to be the key thing is the productivity with all these companies based on this new model that is coming out right now. And I'll just say one thing too, we've talked about these ridiculous requirements in terms of compensation. Mm-hmm. Everyone's jumping, and they're jumping. There's the remote, there's the increase in pay. Yeah, that's right. But the grass is not always greener.
Yeah,
that's true.
And you're going to, you can have all the money in the world, but if you hate what you're doing and you do not like what you're doing
it with,
exactly, things are gonna come about, and you're like, oh my goodness,
15% is not enough.
But organizational cultures are changing as well. So if I was fully brick and mortar and working here, and now I have to work fully remote or learn hybrid, my culture's changing too. And how are the companies positioning that to attract these folks? Right? It's not subtle. It's nowhere near subtle.
Yeah.
Well, let's bring this home. And I heard, probably the 2 top things that I heard from this conversation, which is really where we were going, is one around, just what the general feel of the market is around talent acquisition. And second is employee retention. I heard that part loud and clear, is the impact of where the talent acquisition market is that's going to have on your current business. So understanding those are the 2 hot things, Pete, tell us, I don't know, top 1, 2, or 3 things that, what should companies be thinking about? If you're on the market and you've got talent search, what are the things that they should consider? And if you're not, what should companies be thinking about around employee retention?
Well, I think number 1, brace yourself for the compensation asks and requirements that are going to be out there. So brace yourself for that. And then I think too that I don't think you should give away the bank, either. for the role. I think that we talked about it earlier. I think the one thing we can take a look at and do is what are some alternative titles, skill sets, and areas in which we can tap into where I'm going to get 60, even if 50 to 60% crossover in terms of skill set. And then I've got the soft skills to go with it to transition somebody into that role.
Yeah.
That would be number one, to take a look at. It's not that we're going to give up on looking at the individual that checks all the boxes. We're still doing that.
If that person's there, grab them.
And if you want to pay, you want to pay for that.
If you can afford them.
Yeah,
Right.
and you certainly want to do that, go right ahead, and do that. But why not take a look at some other alternative skill sets that can make that transition that doesn't break the bank? And also, you're going to have someone who's highly motivated who has been transitioning and wanting to get into that particular role. You talked about retention.
Creating
you talked about
opportunity.
motivation.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I'm doing a lot with clients right now.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
There's a lot of coaching. There's a lot of consulting, that's going on with hiring managers for that. But that's the number one thing. What can we do to identify other areas in which to find talent that could easily transition into the role, for that aren't going to be as expensive or ask a ridiculous amount, for that.
It's great advice.
Yeah.
Scott,
Wonderful.
You get the last word.
I don't know if I have the last word here because there's so many questions I haven't even asked yet.
I know. This is a good one. I told you this. I love this topic.
This is deep and wide both. So
It
I
is.
don't know which direction to go with it.
And so smoking hot and current right now. It's just.
But I
think
really
everybody's struggling.
appreciated the one thing that you talked about, that the Fortune 1000 companies or Fortune 500 companies are developing people for that next move and career pathways for them or for individuals, right? And it's not necessarily just in this direction, but it can be moved over here or moved over there, and they're thinking through that. And it is just a warning that I have for the smaller organizations, smaller growing organizations. If you don't do it, you're going to lose your people. You're just going to lose them.
Absolutely.
They're going to be gone.
Yeah.
When I
They're going to
picture,
call you up and look for an opportunity.
when I picture that creates an organic internal shift, right? If you're preparing for that, it does create that natural shift. I like what you're talking about. I love hearing that as well.
I don't think that needs to be a huge segment within this organization. You're not going to have to bring in this heavy hitter for VP talent strategy or anything like that. I think there's probably you guys in coaching that you can coach these individuals up to do. There's probably a few simple things that you can do to help retain that talent.
Yeah.
And they are simple things.
Yeah.
They just take some repetitive
Yep.
practice,
Yeah.
really, and coaching and coming back and saying, you might want to think about adjusting here and adjusting there. Try it again.
Right.
Come back next week. Let's talk. Right? Mentoring within the organization is important as well. You don't just have to have an outside coach, but getting somebody inside to mentor. Training becomes part of that as well. Coaching, training, and mentoring. I think if you're missing that, your people are going to be calling Pete.
I'm here.
He's okay with that.
Yes,
Well, listen, we appreciate you listening. This is a hot one, and we could obviously keep going. So please check us out at the CEOpodcast.net. That's where you can reach out to Scott and myself if you've got hot topics or anything else that you'd like to hear us discuss. We love to hear your feedback on any of this. If you got questions for Pete, throw it our way. We'll get in touch. You can check out plattpartners.com.
Correct.
Yep. And certainly if you're in the market for talent acquisition, there's no better guy than this guy right here. So thanks for listening. And till next time, cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks for coming, Pete.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Great time.
Thank you for joining us for the CEO Podcast. To learn more about Scott and Vince, please visit theceopodcast.net and check out the calendar to tune in for our next episode. While on the site, you can also listen to past episodes, access additional content created for our listeners, and if you would like to dive deeper into any topic, there is an option to schedule some time with Scott or Vince. Thanks for listening.